This evening, we are speaking with Dr. R.Y. Deshpande, a renowned physicist from BARC, Baba Atomic Research Center. He retired early to move to Pondicherry to spend his days working with the Aurobindo Ashram. A poet, author, critic, and an expert on Sri Aurobindo's epic book, Savitri. He is a true Aurobindonian. Dr. Deshpande,
Yes, please.
I would like to ask you a few questions on Savitri and your thoughts on it.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Sharbari, for the kind introduction. I am very happy to be associated with you, and let me see in what best way I can respond to your queries, you see, because the subject Savitri itself is an ocean. It's an ocean under ocean under ocean under ocean, and it depends upon how deep you want to dive into it. So one cannot really be an expert in that sense, but one is trying to swim at different levels of the ocean, you see. So I would put it that way. So with that, let me see to what extent I can really answer your queries, your questions, or what you want to call it, you see, and we will develop a dialogue always.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So for us lay people who have probably heard the story of Savitri and Satyavan and Yam, the god of death, at our grandmother's knees or as we were growing up, we took it at a very basic level. Savitri was a good wife. In fact, there is this saying, Sati Savitri, means the good wife, the perfect wife, who defeats even Yam, the god of death, for her husband, right? But as Dr. Deshpande has analyzed and gone deep into it, and with a scientific background, of course, this really goes into science. So, immortal, coming back from the dead, what is it? Is it coming back from the dead? Is it immortal? And is it just a dream or a story?
Well, let me first give you a very brief background about Savitri itself, and then maybe some of these things will unfold in the course of our presentation. Originally, the story of Savitri, as is found in Mahabharata, Vyasa Savitri, it is a short story, and it is presented in the Mahabharata corpus as an illustration of a dutiful lady who is kind of committed to do certain duties, and she is committed to that thing, and she is fulfilling those things, and it is the fulfillment of those duties which bring automatically, so to say, the rewards, very rich rewards, and therefore there is a fulfillment of duty and the reception of reward. See, that is the basic structure of that thing. But the issues which are dealt with in the story are very deep, are very fundamental, are very basic, are capital importance, you see. It is not just a question of bringing back her husband from the clutches of death. Well, that is of course an aspect, but that is a symbolic way of saying something more than what it conveys to you, see, basically, see, symbolic way of saying. Essentially, let us put it this way, look at this way. Savitri is a young girl, hardly 20 years or so, and she had chosen for her husband Satyavan as a youth who is staying in a hermitage in a forest. She is a princess brought up in a royal family with all the luxuries, with all the abundances at her disposal, and she had chosen this young man, youth, the Aryan youth, who is staying in a hermitage, you see. Now, that itself becomes a little contrast. Why she had chosen such a person? Well, that is one small aspect of it, but the more important aspect of it, when she goes back and tells to her parents that I have chosen this youth, this young man as my future husband, then it so happens that at that time of their communication, discussion, says Narad from heaven happens to be in the palace. Well, it is a kind of a purposeful visit, but he is present there in the palace, and she discloses in the presence of Narad that she had chosen Satyavan for her future husband. You see, naturally the parents will ask the sage, "What do you think about this proposal? Is this all right? Is it acceptable? Can we proceed further?" Which are sort of natural questions, you see. And at that time, Narad first sort of bypasses the question, goes around and all that thing. He says, "Don't bother," he says like that, you see. But then ultimately he is forced, he is compelled to tell what is the truth behind the whole thing. And he says that 1 year after their marriage, at this moment, at this kshana, at this spot, at this place, Satyavan is going to die. Satyavan is going to die. That is the kind of a revelation he is making of the future of Savitri. Now a young girl, hardly 20 years old, she has chosen her husband, and she is seeing the future of her husband this way. No young girl, either of modern age or of the ancient age also, would accept such a proposal, you see. I mean, who will? And certainly her mother is not going to accept it. She would not like her daughter to be a widow 1 year after the marriage, you see. How can it be? You see? She opposes this thing, all that sort of thing. But Savitri is firm in her resolve. Savitri is firm in the resolve. She says, it is not the question of 1 year or so. I know what I am doing, what I am here for, what is the purpose behind the whole thing. She gets some sort of an inner knowledge, inner prompting, and she sticks to that. She has the firmness, she has the will, she has the capacity to stand by what her inner prompting is proposing and telling her. So that is the greatness of Savitri. Savitri says that, yes, if he is going to die, I also know how to take care of such a death. She asserts that thing, and then with that sort of an assertion, naturally Narad and her parents bless her that everything will be all right, and then the marriage is performed, etc., etc. And exactly 1 year after the marriage, Satyavan death occurs in the forest and all that, you see. The death occurs in a lonely forest. You see, Satyavan and Savitri, they are staying now for 1 year in the hermitage, and on the day of death, Savitri gets up early in the morning. She knows nobody else in the world except her parents and Narad and she knows about the death of Satyavan, not even her husband.
Okay.
He has absolutely no inkling that tomorrow he is going to die, you see. Nobody has that. But Savitri knows that she is counting the days, because Narad has fixed the time and date and everything. She is counting the date, and before the arrival of the date, she is preparing herself inwardly, consciously, yogically to meet the challenge of death. She is already preparing that sort of a thing, you see. And on the day of death, she gets up early in the morning, and she worships Goddess Durga. The statue of Goddess Durga was carved on a stone by her husband Satyavan himself. She goes and offers her prayer to her. Now, traditionally, symbolically, by our association with Durga, Durga is a goddess who gives you protection.
Okay.
She is the goddess of protection. She is also a goddess who brings victory to you. So it is a double thing, not only protection but also victory. So she is worshipping Goddess Durga, and she receives something inwardly, and then Satyavan and Savitri, they go to the forest where he goes for his daily work of collecting fruits and flowers and for the yajna, for the hermitage operation as a duty. That day, on that particular day, she accompanies him, and they go to the forest. Satyavan is happy that his beloved is there with him. Naturally, they had never been together like that, but on that day they are together. So he shows him all the beautiful things around, the mountains, the trees, the flowers, the birds, everything, rivers, and he is very joyous about it. And in that joy, he wants to complete his work of the day quickly, so that he can give more time to his wife, to his beloved, naturally, you see. And he starts his work very vigorously, and the result is that as a result of that hectic work, he feels tired, and his strokes, his operations become erratic, and he feels as if some kind of weapons are penetrating into his brain, into his heart, like that. He feels that sort of a thing. And then he says, Savitri, this is something very unusual to me, but I feel as if some arrows are piercing into my head and all that. He gets down, comes closer to her and tells her, let me lie in your lap. I am sure that by lying in your lap, everything will be all right, everything will be safe, you see. I mean, he has no, but the prompting is that, I mean, everything will be safe and all that thing. She takes him in her lap and all that, and at that point of time, she sees a powerful, glowing, very strong image of a god standing in front of her. And she asks him, who are you? What's the purpose you have come here for? She asked that image, and he is the god of death himself, Yama, who comes here, and Yama tells to Savitri, look, this life of Satyavan is over. I have come here to collect his soul. I have come here to collect his soul. And that is my job. I have come here for that purpose. At that point, Savitri asked him, I hear that normally when a person dies, you don't go personally yourself to pick up the soul of the dying man. You send your emissaries, your duta and whatever it is. Why is it that you have come here? I mean, I am surprised that you should have come personally yourself to take the soul of Satyavan. Yama praised Satyavan's soul very highly. He says, his is a soul with infinite qualities. He is a guna sagara. He is an ocean of qualities, guna sagara, ocean of qualities, and not a small man can lift up, take away his soul, and that is why I come personally here. So that is the kind of a dialogue which goes on, and then later on in the course of their discussion and all that thing, Savitri puts all types of arguments, Yama puts all types of arguments. It is a kind of a logomachy, one argument fighting against the other. And it is not just the verbal argument, each utterance is an occult weapon which is flung on the opponent. It's just not a technical argument or rational argument. You are saying something, it means that you are sending some power with that thing, which has to be impacted by the other. Same way the other thing comes here. So like that, the logomachy continues for a long time, and then Yama is sort of convinced about what Savitri is here, and she tells him that I have come here for a purpose. I want the soul of Satyavan, not for myself. I really don't need him, because we have been always together. She knows that we have been always together. There is no power in the world, in the universe, which can separate us. But here in the mortal world, we have come here together for a certain purpose. And the fulfillment of that purpose is the most important thing for me. Yama sees a certain merit in that argument. Fulfillment of a certain purpose in the mortal world. In mortal world. That is the crucial thing. And Yama therefore gives a sanction to her, gives her blessings to her. Yes, that fulfillment of the mortal world is the essential thing in the course of evolution, in the course of development of mankind, of the soul of the earth itself. And therefore he grants her that boon, and therefore she comes back with the soul of Satyavan to this earth. Now while she is coming, bringing down the soul of Satyavan from above, from the heaven, you see, like that, behind her, following her, coming behind her, are the figures of Krishna and Kali. while she is bringing down the soul of Satyavan like a bird very close to her heart, what follows is Krishna and Kali coming down here. Krishna is the Anandamaya Purusha who is coming to the earth. Kali is the dynamic power, Shakti of the divine who will be working in the mortal world. So she is not really bringing the soul of Satyavan. In a way, bringing the soul of Satyavan is a small matter. The greater thing is she has brought down Krishna and Kali upon the earth. The Anandamaya Purusha, that is Krishna, the joy, the happiness, the bliss in this creation, that is what she is bringing down here. And of course, to put that Ananda into the dynamics of life here, of existence here, of a creation here, so that more and more facets of this creation unfold in the course of time. Kala has to move forward and do certain things like that. So they come here. So I would rather say the greater contribution of Savitri's work of yoga is not really bringing back the soul of Satyavan, of winning the immortality, but bringing down those divine powers upon the earth, upon the manifestation. Now this is a thing which cannot be considered as temporary gain of mortality. It is a permanent asset, a permanent gift which is offered to the mortal world by Savitri's yoga, you see. She has come for that purpose, she is here and she is doing her work. To hew the ways of immortality, that is what the lines from Savitri. To hew, to cut the ways of immortality in the mortal world. Not up there, not here. In this mortal world, this mortal creation, mortal world has a certain role to play in the scheme of the divine functioning. It is a small world, but in the vastness of the universe, that role is important. What is going to happen in the mortal world will naturally sort of by contagion move around everywhere in the entire universe and have its own effect everywhere, in the worlds of the gods, in the worlds of everywhere that thing. So I would rather say it is not a small partial gain of Savitri from that angle. It is a basic fundamental cosmic issue which is being attended in the story. Now the whole thing is narrated in the form of a legend as a story, but what it means is that when he is narrating as a story, whether it is Vyasa, in fact the story belongs to a much older time than Mahabharata. The story of Savitri is recited not in this manner but symbolically by way of hints in the Veda itself, in the Rig Veda itself. So it had the origin in the Rig Veda. The mortal creation moving towards immortal manifestation in the mortal world, that is the basic thing. The immortality manifesting itself in the mortal world, that is the basic thing of the Vedic rishis, and that has been coming down to us. When they are stating these things, it means that they are putting their entire power of tapasya, of yajna, of yoga into that thing and consolidating it and making it more and more powerful. So when Shebanu is taking up that story, it's not just a legend he is writing, he is not narrating a household episode, but he is actually doing some sort of a yogic work behind the whole thing and establishing the higher truth in this creation. So I would rather say that is the general framework of Savitri. And when we are talking of immortality, immortality is a means. Immortality is an occasion to get certain things done. Without that, certain thing, higher thing, greater thing, the divine things cannot happen. And therefore, that becomes the foundation, that becomes the necessity condition rather. In fact, yesterday I was telling him that more than immortality, what is being established here in this creation is deathlessness.
I agree with you.
You agree with that?
I agree with you.
Deathlessness. So it is the deathlessness which is being established in the world of death, in the mortal world. Our world, earth, is called Mrityu Loka.
Mrityu Loka.
Mrityu Loka. Our world is called Mrityu Loka, mortal world. They have been saying, they have been talking of the thing as Mrityu Loka. In Mrityu Loka, to establish something which is Amara, which has no death at all. That is the entire purpose of this whole creation. The creation is meant, the design of the Supreme is such that through this process, this creation then grows into higher and higher dimensions of expression of the divine in this creation, you see. So that is the purpose of the mortal world, you see. So mortal, immortal, you see, they are small phrases, but the essence is the question of a higher, superior, nobler, divine manifestation as the basic issue which has been taken as a problem by the Supreme himself, and he is unfolding that problem, he is solving that problem, he is working out all the details and putting every machinery to get it achieved, to achieve it, you see.
So, just as I told you, when we were growing up, we really listened to the story of Savitri and Satyavan as a small story. But just in this last few minutes from Dr. Deshpande, we learned how much more deep this simple story, what depth it has and what meaning it has, that most of us haven't probably thought about or put into perspective, right? So, this leads me into my next question, the deathlessness, moving into deathlessness of this world. So, in Sri Aurobindo's epic Savitri, mortality is defeated, at least temporarily, because ultimately we know Satyavan does pass away. And this is done by the heroic act of his wife, Savitri, right? Now, Dr. Deshpande, how would you compare the heroic acts of today's doctors or today's medical science, which is also leading to this deathlessness, as you said, to what Savitri did?
I would say immediately, as a blunt response, it is a wrong comparison.
Okay.
I would not like to dismiss the second part of the question, but let me put it in a proper perspective so that we don't give undue importance to what the question is trying to communicate to us, you see. Essentially, the two levels at which things are happening are altogether poles apart.
Okay.
Poles apart, you see. I mean, the story of Satyavan and Savitri and the question of mortality or immortality there is the fundamental issue of this creation. In the first instance, why this mortality has appeared at all, why death is present at all, and if death is present, if that can be eliminated, that can be taken forward, things can be taken forward, that is at the basic fundamental level. Medical science does not address itself at all to this question, why death is present. In fact, it does not even tell you how life has begun. Well, it has happened, and then you start telling stories. See, medical science, the stories of medical science are actually stories, and they are, I will say, very superficial kind of stories, you see. Let me draw a sort of a broad comparison between these two parts of the question you are raising. You take the image of a Vedic cow, Dhenu, rich, abundant, full of richness and abundance. Dhenu means that is the cow, and that cow symbolizes goddess Aditi herself, the supreme goddess Aditi herself, who is the first creator of this creation. Aditi, she is the beginning, she is the one from whom the creation starts with that. So Dhenu, that Aditi is the Dhenu, and the Vedic Rishis say that this cow, this Dhenu, never becomes dry. The milk constantly keeps on flowing from her, and if you are really doing some sort of a tapas yajna, you can drink directly that milk from her udder straight away, and then you enjoy the trueness of life. That is what this is. Now, in comparison with that milk coming from a cow which can never be slain, a cow which never goes dry, to say that we are getting milk in a plastic packet and drinking it here, I would say it's a travesty. It's a travesty. You see. It is a travesty. You see.
Okay.
I mean, there is certain meaning. Yeah, we want tea, we want butter, we want cream. You produce that sort of a thing. But the divine milk which is flowing from that cow is of a totally different quality than what we are getting in the manufactured world here. So, when you are talking about medical science or whatever thing, they are really very childish sort of whatever. Childish in the sense that at a very small infantile level, you see. We are not really touched the core of the matter, core of the issue anywhere, you see, in that sense, you see. Why there is mortality, why there is immortality, why life has occurred at all, how life has occurred, science is not able to tell you anything of the sort, you see. Then what can you talk of immortality or mortality, you see. Maybe to a certain extent you would be able to prolong the present life. Maybe you may be able to manipulate cells and vertebrates and bring sort of an immortality. In fact, medical science tells you that there are certain cells, there are certain vertebrates which are immortal. But then the problem with those cells which are immortal is that they don't multiply. They can't duplicate themselves. They can't duplicate them. Then what is the use of that thing? It is like a stone or a rock in a mountain, you see, is staying there. So that vertebrate is lying there. You can't really call it a piece of life because it is not able to reproduce, it cannot duplicate itself at all. You see. So there is really no medical science which can tell you this aspect of life in matter. Basically, how life has sprung up in matter, science is totally unaware of it. It has been able to get certain clues here, there. It has been able to follow a certain sequence of operation, a certain process of operation, but that process of operation does not lead you to the knowledge which is there behind that thing. Process, yeah, you take water, you take oxygen, you take hydrogen, you combine them, you get water. Yes,
Right.
fine. But then the miracle is you have got hydrogen, you have got oxygen, you have brought them together. When you have combined them together, you have something totally different, which is neither oxygen nor hydrogen. Where from those new properties have come? How they have come? What is the process by mechanism by which new things keep on happening? Same way, whether it is RNA or DNA or multiplication or duplication or copying or whatever you call it, you see, when they start coming together, then how new properties have arisen, how the proteins have come, how RNA has come. You see, nobody knows about that thing. We are able to list them, we are able to categorize them, we are able to carry things forward. I will say there is certain merit in doing that sort of a research, certain merit, but then its limitations are very severe. And unless you go back to the understanding of the mechanism, the power, the principle, the so to say the theory of what is happening, that you take oxygen and hydrogen, you get water, totally different properties. Where from? You had never asked that question. You had never asked that question. You disintegrate water and then you get oxygen and hydrogen. Where have the properties of water disappeared? Where have they disappeared? Nobody knows that thing, and nobody asked that question. That question had never been raised. So the question of answering that question does not arise also, you see. So that way medical science has a very severe limitation, and ultimately what is it trying to do? It is trying to prolong life. It is
the deathless that you
Pardon
said.
me?
The deathless.
Yeah, it is basically prolonging life. Old age you want to carry forward, is it not so? It is basically something like stopping senescence. Stopping senescence. You are preventing old age appearing closer and closer, you see. But that is not moving towards immortality. Even if you have prolonged your life, maybe you are living today for 60 years average, maybe it can become 70 years, maybe it can become 90 years, maybe it can go to 100 years also. Well, that is what I will say, that must be pursued. I am not denying the necessity of that sort of a push, because the mental activity has to be creative and should be always pushing forward, going forward, you see. But then in the process of going from 60 years average age to 100 years average, what you have really gained? Nothing. All that you are doing is, during those 60 years, you are going and playing in the same golf clubs, you are visiting the same places, you are quarreling with your friends in the same manner, the life continues. Well, so whether it was 60 years or 70 years or 100 years, what is that new? You have gained new. Medical science has not brought anything new in life as such, you see. That is my point, basically that is my point. And life is a thing which will not stop with what it is. The urge, the push, the thrust, the vibrancy of life is to constantly bring out new and new forms, new and new manifestations and expression, you see, new modes of expression had to come into. That is the basic character of life. So, unless medical science can turn towards that to bring out new vibrancy in the existence here, it has not of much value. You are going to play golf instead of for 70 years, maybe for 100 years, but nothing has changed basically. Nothing has changed essentially, you see. So, I will not really say that is of much worth from that point of view, see. Whereas, the question of Savitri is a different thing altogether. She is talking at a totally different level. Her problem is, there is death, and death has to go away, not to prolong life and play for more number of years tennis. That is not the idea of that thing, but to bring newer dimensions of the spirit into expression here, of life into expression here, so that newer modes of existence. You are an intellectual person, you are a scientist, you are a warrior. Don't get stuck with that. Can you become something more than that? Can you bring something more than that in the intellectual field? Can you really move forward beyond your mind and see something else? You don't know where from the imaginations come. You don't know where from the inspiration comes. You don't know where from suddenly some revelations come. And then what are you for? What is your mind for? No, those are the kind of expressions which have to come into play in your growth, in your evolution, in your awareness of your personality. And that is the purpose of Savitri's unfoldment. So, the idea of further development, future development is more inherent in the story of Savitri than what you would see in the medical. Medical science doesn't, he says, let me prolong the life. But then for what? That question it has never asked, you see. Never asked, you see. Well, I would like to make more money or become a billionaire, trillionaire, whatever it is, but so what ultimately, you see. So, that question doesn't arise at all. Actually, the whole idea of immortality, rather deathlessness, in the tale of Savitri, in the legend of Savitri, in the narrative of Savitri, as a symbolic narrative of Savitri, is death is the basic cause of falsehood in this creation. Death is the basic cause of falsehood in this creation. And as long as there is falsehood in this creation, truth cannot come and work here. Truth cannot come and work here. The divine truth, the supreme truth, the dynamics of truth, they have to come into operation here. Truth cannot come and work here as long as falsehood is present here. So, you have to knock out the falsehood. And before you start knocking out the falsehood, you have to go back to the root cause of it. The root cause is death. The presence of death in this mortal world is the cause of all this pain, suffering, falsehood, evil, everything is because of his presence there in the creation, you see. And unless that is removed, that root cause is removed, the higher things cannot come into play here, you see. So, I will say that medical science has absolutely no inkling of that, and I will not blame for that purpose. They follow a certain path, but then we should not glorify it and get drawn and impressed so much by it that we lose our own independence judgment, independent judgment, you see.
So, if I understood you correctly,
Yeah.
there are two words One is immortality,
Yeah.
where, when we think of the spiritual world and the divine soul
Yeah.
is immortal.
Yeah.
There's another word, amortal,
Yeah.
which really means that, through medical science or through whatever, through
Okay.
genes,
Yeah.
we have prolonged our life.
Yeah.
But if I have an accident, I will die.
Yeah.
So it's not really immortality.
No, he's not even.
So which is the thing that we should strive for?
I will say you should try both. Both, in the sense that as long as you are in the domain of thought, in the domain of mind, in the domain of rational thinking alone, you follow the path of rational pursuit. Don't leave that thing. You see. Mind has a certain role to play, and let it play itself out fully. So, immortality as a mental issue should be pursued in its own way. But then there are certain deeper things in me which will keep me unhappy about that, you see. And for that, I will see that the immortality does not give me those answers. My urges, my desires, my longings, my yearnings are not being met by it, and therefore I have to do something. Why should I go after immortality? Why should I go? It is not for the sake of immortality alone that I want to go. I want to see the powers which can really grow in their richness in this creation. In this creation. That is my purpose. My idea is that. You see, the tradition has been saying always, asatoma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotir mrityor ma amrutam gamaya. From the world of death to immortality. That has been the tradition, that had been the yoga of the ancient rishis all along, which was necessary at that point. But I will now reverse the question. All right, from mrityu to deathlessness is all right, fine. But then ultimately, what you have done from mrityu, what you have done from asatya, what you have done for tamasa here, nothing. You have left and gone there, and you are happy up there. But then please look also into these matters here. See, there should be a sort of a reverse flow of energies into this world. From sat into asat, sat has to come into asat. From bliss, ananda, joy has to come into dukkha, from klesha, from pain, suffering here. It has to come here and stay here. The reverse also has to. From deathlessness, something has to enter into death so that the possibilities of death can open out to higher dimensions of expression here. That is the whole thrust of the creation, you see. The creation is not that you abandon this world and go away, as the bhaktas would do, as the sannyasis would do. See, that is an old tradition, and it has failed. It has served its purpose, but in the scheme of divine operation, divine logic, it has failed. It has served only a limited purpose. So I will say whether it is mortality or immortality, they are in a way small things. See, in Cleveland, you have got a statue of deathless life. Huge, big, mighty statue of deathless life, you see, in Cleveland. It's an imagination of man. He is aspiring for something. He is expressing that thing. But now that statue has reversed to come back and flow into the Cleveland River, you see, and make it richer, you see. That has not happened, and that is what should be there, our urge. See, whether you are playing game, whether you are doing painting, or you are singing song, or writing music, or whatever it be, the whole idea is that the powers of the spirit which are latent, which are dormant, which are not come into manifestation here, they must enter into this creation here. See, I want to improve myself. I am a very good athlete in running 100-meter race.
Okay.
Perfectly fine,
Right.
100-meter race. Yesterday I was doing it in 10 seconds, 100 meter. Today I am doing it in 9.8 seconds. Tomorrow I might do it 9.6 seconds also. See. But ultimately what has changed? Not really much. Not
Right.
really. You have improved your figure so see, same 100 meters, a cheetah leaps over in 2.7 seconds. You can never compete with the cheetah,
Right.
you see.
Exactly.
You can never
Right.
compete with the cheetah. He leaves over that 100 meter in just 2.7 seconds, and you are struggling from 9.7 to 9.8 or 9.6 or something like that, you see. Now, why? There are certain biological limits had to be, of course, overcome. But then ultimately, you have not really seen the basic. What is it that makes biologically a cheetah to do that sort of a leap, which is not possible for you to do it?
Right.
Can you look into that problem and do something of that research? And I don't want of you to become a cheetah, but then there is something biologically in it that you should be able to adapt as a man, and push yourself. So that is the sort of medical research I would do. You see. So that is my pursuit of mortality. You see. Improving a figure is not the thing. You may be a good flyer, and you may do many things of sort of thing. Ultimately, it's not that. What matters is whatever you are doing, are you able to do in that field with total possible perfection? You are capable, you are built up for a 100-meter race for this particular duration of time. Are you able to do that thing with perfection so that your body responds, feels happy, feels joyous that it has brought something down here? It is not a question of competing with the cheetah, but you are designed for that. Are you able to do that thing with perfection?
Okay.
I will raise the same question to cheetah and ask him, can you do your leap not in 2.7 seconds, but in 2.3 seconds?
Exactly.
2.3 seconds, it will not be, because what it is doing, it is trying to do its own perfection which is built into it. Biological science has to do the research how that limitation can be removed to a certain extent. But ultimately, what are the biological factors which constrain you only in a certain span of duration between 9.3 seconds to 10 seconds? What those you can study and then try to elaborate and understand that we have not done at all. You see, same thing. Ultimately, I will say what matters, what counts is the perfection. I am a student, whether I get first class or not is immaterial, but whether I am doing study as a student in a perfect way. It is not your counting, your reckoning, your mark sheet which should satisfy me, but something in me should tell me, yes, I am studying in a very perfect way, because it is that imbibement of perfection which will carry me throughout life in every field of activity. So, in whatever I am engaged in, I am a cook, am I doing the cooking in a perfect manner in that way, see. So, I will say the password in all these things is the perfection, not the degree of that sort of a thing.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Makes total sense. Makes total sense. So, what spiritual or practical message would you give to humans as we strive for a degree of immortality?
To humanity. But does humanity want it?
That is a good question. We don't, and it's very practical. A lot of times, one doesn't know what one wants.
Yes.
And
you have caught a phrase from somewhere and you ask me, can you offer it to me? But
right.
But does the humanity crave for that? Has it that urge in it? Is there something burning in its soul that it must have that thing? If it is not there, there is absolutely no point in taking it to that humanity.
But maybe all of humanity doesn't want it, or doesn't even know
Yeah,
that this is
it's
something.
not aware of it. Yeah.
Is not aware of it.
Yeah.
But maybe there are a few people out there who may be at that stage that can benefit from your thoughts.
So those who are in search of something, those who are questers, those who are seekers, they are finding their own way.
Okay.
It may not be necessarily my way or your way or his way, because they are constant seekers of knowledge or truth or whatever you want to call it. They have got some sort of objective in front of them, and they want to attain that objective in their life. So they are constantly after that. You see, a person who is in Paris, he is writing a book on yoga, but he is in search of something. He is in search of something. He comes to Rishikesh. He spends his life in Rishikesh. He goes here, he goes there. He is constantly in search. He is hunting out. He is finding out where can I get the help here? Can I get the help here? Can I get the help here? So you are not taking that help to him. He is himself is searching it out. You see.
Okay, okay, okay. And so this last question is a little different. This is about the future of humanity. So, what is your perception of where our human form is going to be in the next evolution?
Yeah, which is a much larger question also, very big question also. But let me tell you something very briefly. Has man, of course, women is included in that.
Yes, women need to be included.
It's included, man is included, so there's no question about that. Has man exploited all the potentials which are present in him? He has not. He is not even aware of the type of potentials which are present in him. Man today is a rational being. He is a product of Platonic thinking, a man of reason. Man of pure reason in Plato is occupying an extremely high place. Now that pure reason has been brought down by science to empirical rationalism. See, which is already a downfall, I will say. Plato thinks in terms of pure reason, and that is sufficient for it to happen. Now, what science has done, it has brought down that idea of pure reason to empirical rationalism.
Right.
Unless I can test that thing in my laboratory, do experiments, predict certain thing of that thing, I am not going to accept anything.
Right.
That is the empirical rationalism. Now, empirical rationalism has brought out a certain positivism in life. Okay, that is merit on a practical level. But in terms of its gain of faculties, it has really brought down Plato further down. See. Now, in words, what I am saying is, you have to first rise to pure reason. Man as a mental being, manomaya purusha, he has to rise to the level of mental being. Full capacities, we are not exploited full capacities of man at all. You see, man gets many times discernment without knowing it. Whether I should do this or I should do that, he is not going to argue, but suddenly he feels that this must be done and not this one. Where from that discernment comes, he is not going to question. But that faculty is present in man. Even a cow knows when she is grazing in the farm, she avoids the poison weeds and takes only crop. That discernment is present in that animal also altogether. Same thing in man also, the discernment, the faculty, dakshina, that is what the Vedic rishis say, daksha, you are careful, accept this or don't accept that thing. A certain situation is present to you, and then you are not rationalizing it, you are analyzing it, you are not putting tick marks in the boxes, this, therefore I this. It's not that. Suddenly something happens to you and you accept that sort of a thing, you see. Same thing, I mean, when, to give a general example, when a boy and girl fall in love, they are not going to tick mark there. There is something in them which happens and finished, matter is over. They are not going to say yes, 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 and therefore we will get together. It is not that, you see. It doesn't happen. That discernment, that certain faculty is there, it is to be properly cultivated and brought. Now, the pitfalls of the discernment have to be avoided also, because you see, you should not be your prejudiced judgment. You have to see that you don't have prejudices, you don't have your pre-opinions of those things, and you have to prepare yourself. So, man has to prepare for that sort of a thing. You have ambition, therefore I like this, then you are spoiling the discernment, you see.
Here I am going to just ask one question, is that from some of the readings that I have done, I am told that it's our intuition where you say, should I do this or this, there's something, a feeling that, no, I'll choose this. And it's all an amalgamation of our experiences,
Yeah.
which is our intuition that makes us choose something.
I'm coming to intuition, yeah.
Yes, is that what you were talking
Yeah,
about?
well, I am
also?
coming to intuition. I am talking first now. There are 4 layers beyond mental thinking, beyond reason.
Okay.
The first layer is discernment.
Okay, okay.
First layer
okay.
is
okay.
discernment. That is what I am trying to tell you.
Okay.
Discernment. Now, discernment can get affected by your personality, by your association. He is my friend, therefore I have more favor for him. You have lost the discernment. You see that way. That should not happen. Means a certain type of a purification within you is required to go by discernment. Now, after discernment, the faculty which is there in man, which we have not really seen, exploited at all, is of intuition. Intuition. You are doing something, you are writing something, you are writing work or something. Something suddenly flashes in you and you get something different, and your whole course of development changes with that totally different turn. Einstein did not rationalize his theory and gave relativity. Some sort of an intuition flashed somewhere in his consciousness, and he was alert enough to see that intuition and bring it in a mathematical form. So that sort of a preparedness on your side when the intuition comes to apply it is important. We have not developed the proper intuition at all. You see, after intuition, the higher faculty is inspiration. Suddenly you get inspiration from somewhere, some source is like that, you see, and how the poet starts writing poetry, or a musician starts composing things, or a painter does this painting. Some sort of an inspiration comes without thinking. It's not that by thinking you are doing the sort of a thing. Something flashes, something happens. Your instrument, your mechanism is such that it drives you on that direction. You see, beyond intuition, beyond inspiration, you have got first discernment, then you have got intuition, then you got inspiration, is revelation. A person who is absolutely ready, to him the truth is revealed, the reality is revealed. He is not analyzing and getting it, it's sort of shown to him, revealed. That is what we got revelation means, that you see. Now, these are all the faculties which are in the domain of a mental being, of a manomaya purusha. We have not really systematically developed any of these faculties and put them into operation. None of them we have done, you see. Well, we carry on our day, we'll have our pizza today, we'll have that thing tomorrow, it goes on, life goes on like that, you see. But the development of inner faculties of intuition, in fact, the Vedic rishis speak of these faculties as dakshina, discernment, igada, intuition, Saraswati, inspiration, Brahati as revelation. Brahati, she at once shows you the doors of truth and knowledge. Knowledge suddenly comes. Where from? How did the Vedic rishis got that knowledge? They say that there is somebody within you who is immortal. Somebody is already sitting within you who is immortal. You are a mortal creature, all right, but there is somebody sitting within you who is immortal. Where from that knowledge has come to him? Revelation. He has done his own tapasya, his own yoga, his own preparation to receive that knowledge, and that knowledge has entered into him. And he said, there is the immortal in the mortal. The Rishi speaks of that thing. And then that immortal, that Agni, that little Vishnu who is sitting within us, he is taking your life forward properly. Now that revelation comes as a part of your spiritual development, spiritual growth, conscious effort in that direction. It needs tapasya, it needs yoga sadhana, it needs preparation, and it does not come just like that, you see. But then it is in that direction man has to move forward. Man has to move forward. Still, there is a beyond, to the beyond. There is a beyond, to the beyond also. Yes, beyond that thing. The beyond is, there is the intrinsic faculty of knowledge, intrinsic existence of truth, intrinsic existence of consciousness force, of joy, of bliss, what the Vedic rishis call, what the Upanishadic rishis call, Satchitananda. Satyam, Rutam. Vedic rishis call it Satyam, Rutam, Brahat. Satyam, truth, Rutam, right, Brahat, vast. They speak of that thing. Now, it is into that domain we have to enter after developing these four faculties, you see, after developing these four faculties. These four faculties is what should be first achieved by us as post-human destinies. Our human destiny is a mental destiny of a reasoning mind, of a rational creature. But the post-rational creature should have these four faculties first. Ida, Saraswati, Mahi, Brahati, all those things. After acquiring those faculties, you have to enter into yet higher domain where knowledge is by itself knowledge. You are not deriving from something. Knowledge, bliss, power, love, joy, beauty, truth, they are self-existent and they have to come into your operation, into your creation, into your existence. That's the whole thrust, you see. So, I will rather say, is humanity willing to move through these steps? I will go a step further and say that humanity should do. That is all. But even if humanity fails to do it, does not apply itself towards it, falls short of its resources and its attempts and its efforts, I will say that is not the end of the story which is being written by the divine. The divine story does not end with the perfection and creation of man. The divine creation is to bring out somebody who is superior to man, of Gnostic quality, of intrinsic knowledge and all that thing. That is in the very scheme of evolution. The divine story is built into that way. It has done, you have got the vital mental being, you have got the physical being, you have got the vital being, you have got the mental being, you have the spiritual being, but man does not, this evolution does not stop with that. Consciousness does not stop its growth with that. The divine has arranged many further ranges beyond that, and you have to. So, I will say that the story of evolution is now in fact moving from these fourfold aspects of post-human destinies into yet wider domain of Satyam, Mrutam, Brahat, or what you want to call it. They have to come, and that is the role which is being played by Savitri while she is bringing down Krishna and Kali into this creation. That is the whole purpose of the thing, you see. So, now whether humanity is ready or not, I will say it's immaterial. I wouldn't care. Humanity, there is a little urge here, something is happening here, all right, let it be satisfied also with that. But the divine purpose, divine intention in this creation is the fulfillment of divine purpose of bringing those higher faculties into manifestation here. And towards that, the divine work is going on. Whether man is participating in it or not, whether nature is participating in it or not, consciously, unconsciously, you are moving in that direction, but the divine work is constantly going, the yoga of the divine is constantly being pursued, and that is bound to happen tomorrow. It is inevitable. The stage of evolution is not going to stop with the appearance of the mental being, Manomaya Purusha. There is a Vijnanama Purusha, he has to appear here, Vijnana. Man of knowledge who knows things intrinsically by identification, he knows things, he has to appear on the scene. That is the inevitability in the process of evolution. It has to happen. Once the Vijnanama Purusha comes, then the Anandamaya Purusha can come, then Saundaryamaya Purusha can come. See, like that, now many facets can appear here, you see. And then you will stop talking of mortality or immortality. That's not the purpose at all. The whole idea is of a higher manifestation entering into the creation here. A stage has arrived to the long course of nature's labor that we have come to the mental level. You are able to at least think of post-human destinies. There are individuals here and there who are still trying something more than that, and therefore that is support. Now, the yoga of the divine is to see that higher powers start entering into this creation. For those things to happen, symbolically, what is necessary is Satyavan must die. Symbol Satyavan. Symbolically, he must die to the past and let those things start coming appearing here, you see.
So do you think, I'm sorry, do you think that with the other technological development like the connected human and all these, devices that are being created or that are being worked on, the technologies, to where all the easier tasks, the routine tasks are being done, is that also by divine or a spiritual?
No. You see, divine has, in the cosmic play, in the present play, there are certain faculties in operation. There are certain faculties in operation. Now the mental faculties are there, rationalism is there, science is there, they are all mental faculties. Now divine will not stop the mental faculties operating in their own full strength, but that is not the sole purpose of it. That is not the sole purpose. You see, you are a physical body, it does not mean that you should live with these physical elements all the while. You should become different, glorious, beautiful, kindle fire, it should be like that. Each cell should be a fiery cell of the divine presence there. So that is the divine intention. That does not mean that you should stop what you are doing here. If you are ill, certainly go and take medicines. See, it does not mean that. But basically, the faculties which have come into operation, a painter is allowed to do the painting, a musician is allowed to play his music, a scientist is allowed to develop his scientific skill. They are important, necessary, because these are the faculties which have come into operation in the dynamics of life here, and they must grow in their full potential. They must grow, they must exploit themselves to what extent they can go. That does not mean that that is the end of the story. The other things have to come and enter to that thing, you see. And if you are able to open yourself to that, you suddenly see that what am I doing? My music is of a different quality now there. My harmony is of a, it's not the octave that I am singing, but maybe it is some other 100 notes are coming sharply together, you see. I am singing on a harp with 100 strings, 100 different notes. See, those possibilities can open out, and they do open out. They do open up. That is the whole purpose of creative enlargement of the spirit in manifestation. It allows things to happen. I am not condemning what is being done, because your potentialities have to, you are striving to do your 100-meter race from 10 to 9.8. Yes, certainly do it. But then if you become a divine 100-meter runner, perhaps you will do it in a different manner. You may be instantaneously at this place or at that place.
Yes.
Instantaneously. There is no question of time now here, of you see. If you are able to that, you appear here still and you appear there. Suddenly you are simultaneously present everywhere there. So it is a question of race there. So those are the different possibilities which can open out, you see, open out. I will give a very crude example. Until now, it would not have been possible at all, but now things have opened out. Have we ever given a thought to what kind of game you should play in free space?
No.
Free space has opened out to you. Free space has opened out to you. You had never given a thought, what, can I play volleyball there? I can't play. Why can I play basketball or tennis? I can't. But then what kind of games I will introduce there, invent there? That is the creative aspect which has come out in front of you, and you are not attended to it. The space is there now, and you are not even thinking of it, you see.
Anything else?
So basically, I mean, the whole idea is of a very complex nature. I will just make one more small remark. All right, you are thinking of manifestation in the divine, in this world, in the mortal world. The possibility, the potentiality, the capabilities of divine working in this creation, and let us assume that they are going to happen here, because that is built into the scheme of things. That is built into the scheme of things. So the earth becomes now a place center for the divine to work out his own ideas. The way he wants to do this or do that, he has got a full power and capacity and capability now to work them out here in this creation. All right. Earth has glorified herself by offering herself to the divine, and things are happening on the earth. Is that the end of the creation? Is that the end of the story? Is that what is ultimately going to be? If it was so, then what are these millions and millions and millions of stars there for in the sky, the universes, the galaxies? What are they there for?
Right.
I mean, what are they there for? You see, I mean, those questions start opening out then. Earth has been created by the divine for a certain purpose so that the divine potentials can manifest here. Now that becomes the nucleating point of activities in other places of the universe. If this is already fulfilled, then you start touching this part, that part, that
Right.
part of you. Now,
Exactly.
it is not that you are going to duplicate things which are here on the earth elsewhere, because there is no joy in that, in duplicating. Based on the faculties which I come here, is something newly can be created here, something newly can be created here. Can moon has its own personality to express its own manner.
Right.
It's not that you take life here and then build up there. It's not that. Moon has its own character, sun has its own character, the planets have their own character, the galaxies have their own character, the entire physical object in the universe, each individual has its own character, and it is that character which must come out fully in the expression of its possibilities of truth in it, and those things start opening out when things are happening here on earth. Earth has created that focus, has created a center of activity, has nucleated. Now you can germinate that thing and spread in wherever you like, you see. So the divine has a very massive plan, see, and his operation, his working is very systematic. Let me first concentrate at a given place, and then things will happen here, you see. He has his own scheme of operation. His drama is a vast drama, and each act is linked up in a very unique way with other acts, you see, that we see.
Thank you very much, Dr.
Well,
Deshpande. I hope you enjoyed and you learned a lot from this conversation, as I have learned a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for all that, you see, for giving me the opportunity and talking to you.